Hi, everyone. I'm Jody Tropiano-Green, the head of content with Health at the Vive conference for another Beat executive interview. This time, I'm joined by KJ, the CEO and co-founder of RISA Labs. KJ, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Judy, for having us.
All right, so let's get into it. So we know that healthcare has invested a lot in digital tools. We see it on the show floor here, but it hasn't necessarily made as much of a dent when it comes to kind of making operations a little bit more efficient. So why has this lag occurred?
Sure. So I think if I look back, all the software that's being sold or that has been historically sold expected someone to use it. So, and if you go and talk to anyone at a care facility, they don't have enough time and there's work to do in front of them. So the learning curve of actually going out and learning a new software was something that healthcare could never invest or prioritize because there's more work to do right in front of them, be seeing patient, someone's walking in, things like that. So a lot of software was sold but was never used. And then after the EMR or standard tools that were to be bought, anything that anyone came up with was asked the ROI question, but actually it was the time question. What everyone wanted was get my work done, not add more work to my day. So I think it just boils down to, is the company or is the technology getting the work done? Or is this another tool where I have to do the work? Essentially, it just boils down to very fundamental things. And to be honest, it's got nothing to do with healthcare in itself. It's just got to do with what the tool needs to do and not what I need to do in the tool.
And there's a difference between automating individual tasks versus orchestrating large, kind of complex system changes. So what is that difference and why does it matter?
Yeah. So the difference is like, if I look back, right? Like you need to understand at systems level what is being prioritized. So depending on who the person is, their context and their ability to make a judgment would vary. A physician who has prescribed a medicine has more context than a prior auth associate who is filing for it. So but if you can have the physician level intelligence to even an administrative workflow, then a lot of errors which happen and because of which care gets delayed or patient uh, like does not get a chemo on time for a fact, or like there may be a negotiation with a payer that payer provider relations team has done, but if it's not used in the right form and fashion when it is to be used, then if you are creating a point solution or if you don't have a system level thought process to building out the solution, then you'll always have suboptimal outcomes because so that's the whole nature. If you can have an abundant data layer and intelligence layer, even at a place where, especially at a place where a professional or the highest paid person in the institution is not available, the quality of everything would go up.
Yep. Yep. And you alluded to this a little bit, but just patients feel this friction that we have in the system, and that's unfortunate. So where do you see the biggest opportunities to reduce this friction and actually make a dent in outcomes and access and costs?
For sure. I think if I look at from patients' lens, the hard truth is patients, for them, it's a black box. They don't even, or you or I will never not even know until the final verdict comes whether, hey, you have an approval or you don't have an approval. The biggest bottleneck is if you can ensure that as soon as physician is clear that what's to be given to a patient, everything from that should be frictionlessly done and there should be lesser moving parts. I think simple way is have agentic AI and have in-house uh, productivity with that agentic layer sitting on top of my EMR environment system of record so that any administrative leakage is stopped, any administrative delay is stopped, and patient gets to care on time. So the biggest friction just lies in the administrative arm, which is troubled by a lot of things, and a lot of offshoring, outsourcing also happens in the name of cost reduction. But then the throughput goes down and there's further loss rather than advantage in doing that. So in-house agentic AI productivity kind of solves for a lot of bottleneck and leads to a higher throughput in the system.
And how should health system leaders be thinking about productivity within their own workforce and how this technology will change the roles that they have, the capacity that they have?
For sure. I think it goes back to it, there is an in healthcare we are labor starved. There is not labor abundance. What I mean by that is for certain roles, if someone is leaving, they are not paid in a lot of roles, so they are bound to leave after 6, 7, 8 months. Then fill rates are bad, attrition is high. So what happens is there's always knowledge to transfer, context to give to the next person, and the system takes a hit because of that. What's needed is a more autonomous system which can basically run when others are sleeping as well. So figuring out those pain points in the system where uh, a lot of things can be done with the least amount of human intervention, and setting up a observability or a traceability layers so that if agents have done what, they know and they can go and track back. And yeah, that's the way out, and that's the answer, because at the end of the day, what you want is on any day, if a patient walks in, if they're supposed to get a treatment on 22nd March, they get it on 22nd March or before, and not on 28th March. You don't want a no-show because of administrative reasons. So I think it just goes back to what we can do for higher throughput. And it's not just on the provider side, but even on the payer side, how can we gold card things? How can there be third party uh, AI infrastructure or data infrastructure which ease out? And in fact, the other problem is also like they're not very good at improving therapeutics or opening up data to improve therapeutics from a pharma point of view. There's PHI and all those things come in. Tech can, with right environments built, solve for a lot there as well.
Yeah, yeah. And you're talking a lot about technology kind of being a part of the decision-making process, which could cause a little bit of hesitation for some health system leaders. So how do you think about trust and accountability when implementing these technologies?
I think AI governance needs to be in place. There needs to be AI traceability. So, and there should be a new, in fact, there are new roles needed, which is about, uh, which will less be about doing work, but observing and auditing and tracking. So there are new jobs that will get created in this process, which would be just observing what agents are doing. It's like when you go to an airport security, there are surveillance happening on what people are doing. Similar surveillance jobs should exist, just so that there is responsible adoption of AI and agentic AI. Yeah, and that's where everyone needs to invest and not worry about other things, but have the right infrastructure so that and even humans make mistakes. We tend to, but we never had that systems in place for humans. But the good part here is like with the agentic AI, you can have those systems, and I'm happy that at least we are answering those questions. And what's needed is to address them, not hide from them, not run away from them. It's about yeah, that's what's needed. And like at RISA, we've like which institutions we are working, that's how we even begin the conversation. And that's where our biggest wins have also come.
So, okay, so a health system, they invested, they're doing it. How do they measure success? How do they know this is all working?
Yeah. So I think ROI, in our case, I love when a CFO uh, or a conversation hints about ROI. And for us, the prioritization also is like, hey, if there is a task to be done, the unit cost of that task may be same, but then depending on if I am, let's say, I'll take a prior authorization example, which is a friction to us, anyone getting care in US, and something you, everyone in the family can have friction on. I think one thing is every prior auth is not same. So if the workflow, though feels horizontal, its specific value and dollar value and even delay value for a patient varies from time to time. So you need to first understand for objectively, if a throughput is higher, then what it means from a care outcome point of view, what it means from a dollar value associated that with that treatment, with that drug. And that if you prioritize it from that lens, you realize that, hey, you need to solve oncology first, because the situation of a patient can get worsened. Even from cost of care, like it's a high cost treatment, and you don't want to miss out on that. And then you can expand to more bespoke workflows within the specialty or extend the technology piece at enterprise-wide to next specialty, which justifies a lot of this. The others also is like, where do you have skewness of admin is to physician ratio? And because if, let's say, you are per physician in certain specialty, you have more administrative staff, it means that their assistance, more assistance is needed.
Yeah.
So I think you need to figure out from that lens. And ROI would again go back to uh, throughput. So if let's say there is no loss on date of service to what I mean by date of service is, let's say, on any day for an infusion, for a chemo, for a radiology, if 100 patients were supposed to be given certain care and out of that 99 or 100 received, then you have had zero leakage. So it's all about where there's order created but possibilities of leakage. If you just do that, you have a 32-day month rather than a 28 or a 31-day month because you've added another day. And that's where you start to improve the quality of health quality or financial health of the system. And once you do that right, downstream, you have more cash that can be used for other places where it's needed. And maybe that's not very profitable. So it all starts with measuring the action and why you are investing in one technology over the other in the short term. Second is point solutions should not be bought because they slow us all down. And the same governance and evaluation process that you did with the vendor one goes to the vendor two. So creating an OS or starting off with a vendor who can help me solve one use case very acutely in 3 months so that I have an ROI. But in the 9-month, 2-year, 5-year horizon, I can use the same platform and add more applications and workflows and use cases to it. So you're better off buying a vendor who is platform first from day zero, yet is okay to just solve one acute problem in the short run. So yeah, I think it's just about balancing the long term and short term and being very ROI first. I think the margins are very bad in healthcare.
And that platform versus point solution debate is one that's had often, definitely happening during this event. Well, you painted a really great future and kind of what your technology can do for a health system. But I always end these interviews asking your vision for the future. So if AI is deployed responsibly and healthcare operations are seamlessly flowing, what does that future look like?
Yeah, so I am very optimistic, and I'm not like, I'll tell you, in my head, it's like in journey of a drug, like it takes 15, 20 years for a drug to come out. Where we have started is we want to ensure that any bottleneck to a breakthrough that can happen should be solved by us. Today's bottleneck on patient access sides happens to be prior auth and administrative and clinical workflows, but as a company, and like we are already getting into certain pharma relations, what's important is how we can use the abundance of data and intelligence that we have to open up evidence rooms and inform because like there are more drugs in the pipeline. And we just want to ensure that we contribute to the outcomes by having better therapeutics. So the two sides to any cancer patient or any patient, to be honest, but depending on if it's a rare disease or a specialty, just get them on right care on time. There should not be any bottlenecks to this. This is what we do even today. Second is the more data abundant we become, how we can help more people and organizations, institutions, researchers in the ecosystem to get to a better therapeutics faster. Because I think if a condition is suffered by only 5 million patients annually in total, let's say globally, then the current setup is not incentivized to solve it. So we need to use AI to flip that equation so that we can have a supply chain of treatment for even 5 million and less patients. And there's a long tail of conditions to be solved, and there is a long tail of pharma to be built. So yeah, for us, it's like point of care is super important because that's where the data for reinforcement learning on health data, which is in my head, the last battle of AI supremacy also. So yeah, I think for us, solving diseases, but like ensuring the smaller villains on day-to-day basis are taken care of.
Yeah. A bottleneck-free future. That would be nice. KJ, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great to have you.
Likewise.
Thanks.